Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Sorry I can't be there. Think I caught what my kids have been passing around for the last 2 weeks. I woke up with a sore throat and runny nose, so I didn't want to leave the club hanging. So I recorded my presentation this morning. For those of you who don't know, I work for Macomb County Planning and Economic Development in the Parks and Natural Resources Division, and I'm a senior planner. When I was preparing this presentation, I looked back at the last time I presented to our club, which was in 2020, February 6th. So right before the pandemic, before we all went home for the pandemic. A lot has changed since then, not just in the world, but in the world of parks and natural resources. During the pandemic, we saw a huge increase of people using our local parks and natural resources. I just saw a presentation done by the Metro Parks last week at a conference, and they said their numbers are up still to this day about 25% from pre-pandemic, and it got as high as like 35% during the shutdown. All right. So bear with me here. This is the first time I'm recording something. So like I mentioned, I work in the Parks and Natural Resources Program area, which is housed in our Planning and Economic Development department. We have a Parks and Natural Resources Master Plan that we follow. We work on the Blue Economy Initiative, which was a big push from County Executive Hackle. We have our Green Macomb brand, and we also work closely with local governments on grant applications as well as zoning, ordinances, and other things. As I mentioned, we have our Parks and Natural Resources Comprehensive Master Plan. Macomb County is not like other counties in the area. We do not have a Parks Millage or a Parks and Recreation Department. So that has limited us in being able to get funding from entities like the Michigan DNR Trust Fund. So in January of 2020, we adopted our comprehensive master plan, which will allow us to seek out different funding and also provide some guidance as we look for projects in the county. We work in three program areas, or these three maps basically show the program areas that we work in. We have the blue and green economy. The map on the far left shows all of the branches of the Clinton River, as well as our countywide trail system and how they can connect to our historic downtowns, or there's a couple coastal city nodes like Harrison Township in New Baltimore and Chesterfield shown on this map. The middle map is our Green Macomb map. This shows the tree canopy of the county. Red is the lowest tree canopy and green is the highest. And then we have our Lake St. Clair Coastal Water Trail on the right-hand side. This also extends up into the Clinton River all the way to DeQuinder. We focus on paddling programming. One of the biggest projects that we've been working on over the last year and a half has been the St. Clair Macomb Birding Trail. This is a partnership with St. Clair County. We received a grant from the Michigan Coastal Management Program through the Michigan Department of Energy, Great Lakes, Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EAGLE, formerly the DEQ, and then the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to develop a website, online map, printed map for 30 viewing locations in St. Clair and Macomb counties. We developed our logo, which is right here on the right-hand side. This was developed in partnership with the local Audubon chapters, as well as the Huron Clinton Metro Parks and the Detroit Zoo. Um, we are also working on a design for 2 formal viewing platforms, one in each county. The one in Macomb County will be at Lake St. Clair Metro Park. We created an interactive online map. This is a QR code that takes you directly to the map. And this is what the map looks like. I will stop sharing this and pull up the map itself. So this is the Lakes St. Clair Macomb Birding Trail interactive story map. So it talks about what the trail is, what you can find along the trail. Then it has a map of all the sites. You can click on a site. It'll tell you the name of the park, the location, what you can see there. Is there parking? Is there a formal trail? And what kind of unique species you might be able to see there. This has been quite the learning experience for myself. I did not know much about birding until we started on this project. And then uh, since then, I have learned so much. So once you scroll down in the map, this is completely mobile friendly. You can keep going and it'll show you each of the sites in detail, where to park within the park or the location. It has an example of a bird you can see there and then describes what other kind of species you can see there. One of the coolest things I learned through this project was that snowy owls can be seen annually at Harley Ensign Memorial Boat Access. You can see them other places too, but this is one of the most common places to see them, which is just a couple miles from my house. So I'm going to be out checking those out this winter. There's also a website called ebird.com that tells you exactly, people go on and report as they're out what they've seen. So you can look at that and go out to a site and see what was spotted there earlier in the day. So that is our birding trail map. And now I will share back the presentation. Here we go. All right. Coming soon, we have a printed map guide, the website, like I mentioned, signage at each location that will just show the logo as seen right there with the QR code to the website for more information. We'll have the designs for the viewing platforms, and then we actually hosted an event at Lake St. Clair Metro Park on October 16th. St. Clair County will be hosting an event in February to coincide with the winter duck migration that will be held near the Blue Water Bridge in Port Huron. We do not have a date for that yet, so keep your eye out. We are also working with the city of New Baltimore on the Rudisell Park shoreline softening. We received $250,000. Well, the city received $250,000 in funding from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. That is to restore 300 feet of hardened shoreline and install 5 acres of habitat out into Lake St. Clair. That'll include native vegetation for pollinators, as well as the stuff in the lake will be specifically designed for fish species and other aquatic species. The city has a long-term vision of installing a formal parking lot. This park is tucked away in a neighborhood, so it's not it's just very informal right now. They also are looking at installing a fishing pier, maybe a picnic area, and a playground. That's not included in this grant, but they will be seeking additional funding for that. Um, we are working with the Ford House on a restoration project in the Ford's Cove. This has been going on for a little over a year now. It's in its final design phases. This is through the Army Corps of Engineers. They are actually going to be installing more habitat out into the lake and installing native vegetation. This project is currently out for public comment and will begin construction in the next year. We've also worked with Lake St. Clair Metro Park in Harrison Township. They just recently restored their beach. If you haven't been out to the park this year, check out the beach. They've installed vegetation along the where the sand and the grass meet. This is to deter geese and gulls. They've also installed distress geese and gull deterrents, which are automated distress calls that these little devices that are solar operated that make distress calls and scare the geese away. The beach was looking fabulous this year. We also worked with Chesterfield Township. They had a failing seawall at their Brandenburg Park, and it was going to cost a lot of money to repair. We were approached by the Great Lakes Commission and NOAA that there might be funding available for natural shorelines. So we worked with the township and they were on board. They actually received $890,000 in funding to restore the shoreline to a more natural thing. This is actually completed. If you go out to the park, you'll see where they installed habitat structures out into the lake, but they also soften the shoreline. They've put steps down into the water so you can actually go touch and feel the water. They've also done a big native planting there as well. We have 2 new kayak launches coming soon, one in Clinton Township at George Park and one in Harrison Township at Lake St. Clair Metro Park. These launches were funded using legacy, some funding that was left over from our bicentennial celebration a couple years ago. We have some active trail projects. We are working with Chesterfield Township and looking at a way to connect three properties that they own along the Salt River, as well as some other properties along the Salt River by a trail system. They recently acquired the Salt River Nature Center, which, if you're familiar with the area, is located at the end of Hooker Road. It's undeveloped right now, but they'll be putting in trails and maybe a kayak launch there in the future. We also, last time I presented, I think I presented a lot on the North Branch Greenway, which we worked on with Clinton Township, Macomb Township, and Ray Township, as well as the metro parks, because most of the property along the North Branch of the Clinton River in Ray Township is in Bolcott Mill Metro Park. This project was started years ago when we identified that there is a missing link in the middle of the county. We have our Macomb Orchard Trail in the north and then our Freedom Trail in the south, and nothing kind of in between. So looking at how to connect those two trails up through the center of the county, we identified routes not just for walking and hiking and biking, but also for equestrian and paddling. This is just in a planning phase, and we are continuing to work with the communities to identify how we might be able to make this vision happen. Just this month, we were awarded, or last month now, October, we were awarded a grant from SEMCOG for $35,000 to work with Macomb County Public Works, Harrison Township, Clinton Township, Mount Clemens, and the Metro Parks to develop a spillway master plan. The Clinton River Spillway was designed as a drain to get water out to Lake St. Clair as fast as possible to alleviate flooding in Mount Clemens and Harrison Township. The spillway is managed by the Intercounty Drainage Board, but has partnerships with Harrison Township, Clinton Township, and Mount Clemens to use the land for recreational purposes. Um, so there's about over 200 acres of publicly owned land along the spillway. So we will be looking at how we can connect. There is an existing bike trail there, how we can connect to other local and regional trails, and identifying areas where we could have additional recreational opportunities. The map on the left here shows in blue the existing trail network, and the gray is the existing sidewalk network. We are working with also the Public Works Department and Department of Roads on a project at Freedom Hill that involves installing a 1 mile path connecting the Freedom Trail along 16 Mile to Shaner. This path will go along the Red Run Drain and the Sterling Relief Drain. It includes 20 acres of habitat restoration, which is largely pollinator plantings to attract pollinators. There's also an area along the Red Run Drain that is experiencing erosion. If you're not familiar with the site, it was a former landfill. So we don't want to have the drain eroding into that landfill. So the Intercounty Drainage Board is actually working on a project right now to control that erosion and prevent the drain from migrating into the landfill and any contamination from happening. That is going along with this project. It should be completed by the end of 2022. Then we have our Green Macomb Urban Forestry Partnership, which I mentioned earlier is our countywide tree canopy initiative. So the USDA Forest Service recommends a 40% tree canopy for urban areas. Our county has an average of about 26% tree canopy. So over the last few years, we've been successful in getting some grants to help us start this program and kick off and get some trees planted to help get us towards that goal of 40%. On this map here, you'll see the area south of the Clinton River highlighted. It's a lot of red. That's kind of where we started our focus because we still have a lot of red in the rest of the county. So that's kind of where we started. And since then, we have expanded actually to our northern communities, Shelby Township, Macomb Township, and even recently Armada. Like I mentioned, we had received grants from the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative in 2017 and 2018. We just wrapped up our last one in June of 2021. We planted over 2,200 trees. We did some volunteer tree plantings, and we also gave out 5,000 saplings to students at the Lake St. Clair Water Festivals. In fall, since our grants had run out, we had to get creative on how we might be able to do some tree plantings. The village of Armada had, I'm sure you're all aware, a tornado go through in mid-July, which devastated the community and uprooted trees that were hundreds of years old. And it really hit the village hard. So we were able to talk with Second Nature Brands, which is the parent company for Cars and Saunders, about getting some funding to plant some trees. They were able to provide over $5,000 for 50 trees to be planted in the village of Armada on October 7th. The village also worked with DTE to plant another 50 trees, and we are also in talks with them to do some more tree plantings next spring. On October 29th, we partnered with Candace Miller's office, the Public Works office, and the Detroit Zoo to have 54 trees planted in Harrison Township at the mouth of the spillway at Jefferson. That was just last Friday. Even in the rain, we were out there planting 54 trees. And then tomorrow, we are planting 25 trees in Clinton Township at Joy Park. That one is also funded by Second Nature Brands. Being that their facility on Hall Road is right it's just a couple miles away from the park. They thought that was a great fit. They love to fund projects that are in their community where their employees work and where their facilities are. So we're planting 25 trees tomorrow morning at Joy Park in Clinton Township. And Second Nature provides all of the volunteers for those events that they sponsor. That's the end of my presentation. You can see here our website to our department, as well as makeMacomb.com. If you don't follow the Make Macomb Your Home Facebook page, it's a great page to follow. We share a lot of activities that are going on in and around the county, and it's also highlights a lot of our activities. Like it'll show the tree plantings and stuff that we just did. I'm sorry I'm not there in person to answer any questions, but if you have questions, please feel free to email me. My email is on the club runner, or you can email my work email at amanda.oparka, OPARKA, @macombgov.org. Hope you're all doing well. Bye.